Okay, so you're here because your right arm is absolutely destroying your golf swing. It's taking over, it's overpowering, and you have no control of where the ball's going because of your right arm. You step up to your shot, you feel good over it, and then all of a sudden, that right arm, whoo, it just gets way too active. So how can we create a more stable pattern where that right arm, as I like to say, more or less comes with our pivot, with our turn, and stabilizes things, right? So that you can go at it aggressively, but not feel like that right arm's gonna take over. And the right arm moves more like what we see from the legends and the greats. So like Bobby Jones, Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, how that right arm comes with, hopefully, something like this. So I'll definitely take that second one over that first one. So Henry Fall here again out at Dobson Ranch Golf Course in Mesa, Arizona. And today I really want to tap into this right arm and why it's so important. To me, it's one of the key elements to having a good golf swing. And if you're looking for consistent ball striking, if this thing is all over the place, good luck. I just think there's a better way, a way in which the right arm, more or less, as I said, comes with. It's more tied into our whole system. And as we go, I'll also outline some key movements that I've found over my many years of playing and coaching to be super simple and super effective in bringing about a better, more efficient right arm movement, as we again see in the Tour Pros. And don't forget, if you are new here, please do hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I appreciate it a lot. For most of you, you're probably trail arm dominant in the golf swing. So if you're a right-handed player, your right hand is what you would right with, throw with. So that being the case, I also have a theory that in day-to-day life, we're sort of training our bodies and our systems to pull in and push out. So if you think of a push-up, a bench press, you're opening a door, you're closing a door, you're training your trail arm to pull in and push out. Well, that doesn't really work too well in the golf swing. You're adding some extra variables when you're pulling in and pushing things out. Would you agree? So I'd like to think there's a bit more of a constant way. So instead of pulling in, pushing out, or if you think of like an over-the-top throw, which doesn't really equate to golf, to me, the golf swing, the right arm is a little bit more constant. And as many greats throughout history have talked about being more sidearm throwing. Hogan used to talk about skipping a rock, for example. Well, I happen to like that idea. Is it exactly alike? No, but that's a good feeling. So your right arm is more or less on the plane and going with your pivot. And now you start to see how that right arm works a little differently than if, again, I was more pulling, pushing out, shooting as I call it. We don't want to shoot that trail arm. We want it to come with. Maybe you played baseball, or maybe you have skipped a rock on a lake. You know, if you're playing baseball and you're turning two, you get the ground ball, you throw it to first base. Well, that's kind of the sensation with that right arm. If you just kind of imagine this plane here that we're on for golf, I like this right arm to sort of track on that plane. And the right arm, because of that, it's also not extending, firing, it's sort of staying passive and a little bent throughout the motion. It starts with some amount of fold, not much. It goes to probably around 90 with most tour players, and then it does lengthen back out. But to me, a lot of that's more just from the natural movement as we wind up and unwind. It's not me actually like forcefully pulling in and pushing out. Again, that's the big distinction. And while it might feel powerful to really push out and fire that right arm from the top, it's really not what we're seeing from the best players in the world. Their right arm isn't really fully lengthening out until at least at impact, if not past impact. In fact, when you look from down the line, most tour players have a fair amount of fold still into impact. So that tells me that right arm, as I said, is more or less coming with, it's not shooting out. It's what we like to call powerless effort. You're putting all of this energy in and not getting nearly as much out of it as if you were using your system and sequence correctly, and that right arm maintains some bend into impact. So I'm going to cut to a little clip I filmed at my home gym to show you a little example of this for some further evidence, to show you how there's actually more power and potential if that right arm is coming with as I'm describing. Okay, so I'm at my home gym here, and I just wanted to show you the difference with the right arm and how little power I actually have if this right arm is lengthened out and I'm kind of strictly using my hands and arms versus the whole system and having that arm come with me. So I've got the rack there set up on the full weight, 132 pounds. So if I extend my arms out, and let's even put that right arm a little bit into internal. If I try to pull down, I can only go so far with just what feels like my hands and arms because they're so out away from me, right? So I get a little pull, but not much. Now, if I get in a little closer, get that right arm, what feels like a little more neutral, maybe external, and then I can kind of use my whole system. And you see where that right arm and elbow is sort of tracking and coming with, I have a lot more potential energy there. Okay, so now let's dive into just a few movements that I really think will help you tame this right arm and better allow you to use your full system in the golf swing. So my first one kind of goes to that skipping or rock feeling. So if you want to throw a ball, that's a good one. But here's another one. I want you to put your club just about, I don't know, maybe 2 yards in front of you. And this is going to be our target. I have an alignment stick now. I'm going to grip down about halfway, middle of this stick. Get in my golf posture. I'm going to wind up to the top. Now, when I come down, I want to shoot this alignment stick out towards that club. My goal is to kind of have it stick in the ground. So let's see if I can do that. So not bad. Most of you in your golf swing, believe it or not, are actually getting to the top and throwing it out backwards that way. Well, that's a problem if you want to hit ball first contact, get your low point out front, and get your speed maximized at impact. If you're throwing it all out back here, we got a major problem. And that's what I see so often on the lesson tee, where this right arm is extending out, casting it out, all the energy is zapped out of the system before the ball. So let's see if we can get that stick to fire up by the club. So let me show that face on. Okay, so we'll step back about 2 yards or so from that club, grip halfway down, wind up, unwind. Man, I almost hit the club that time. It was pretty good. So you're seeing how that energy gets pushed forward, and I can land, unwind, and then the right arm eventually extends out here, not over the top, not thrown back here. It's a totally different understanding that I think is really going to help you. Okay, so that's movement number one. My second movement is perhaps my favorite, and yet it's the most simple, and it's one you can do right now. You don't need a club, you don't need a ball. All you need is yourself, so that's easy. So let's drop this club. We're going to get our left hand, the back of our left hand under our right tricep, so your trail arm. This is as simple as it gets. I want you to have your arm just a little folded here at the start, and then I want your right wrist also a little bent back, a little, as we say, extended. So this setup is very powerful and dynamic, right? If I was going to strike something, there's a lot there, a lot of meat to that. When I'm actually extended and things are lengthened out, I don't really have a whole lot of power to it, as you saw in the gym. So here I am, left hand under my right tricep, the elbows kind of pointed at my right hip socket. From here, I'm going to keep this structure intact and just feel like I wind up, getting that sternum to wind up, so the rib cage winds up, and then I unwind. So this sort of look with the right arm and feel is so good if you want to feel simplicity and stability. And in fact, I could feel like I take that right into a ball right now and be able to hit a nice little shot that I feel like goes somewhat straight. So I feel that nice stable right arm, and then let's see if I can just hit a little chipper. Man, did that feel nice, where I felt like that right arm was coming with and almost was a little under, not on top, not shooting. Okay, I got one more movement for you. I think you're really gonna like this one, so hold on one sec. All right, this is fun. You guys get all the goodies. Okay, I have a shaft. I have a pool noodle. I'm gonna put the pool noodle just inside the grip there. So you see how it's able to kind of move around. I call this the noodle shooter, okay? And I've actually used this at a lot of our golf schools and seen some pretty big aha moments with students with it. I think it's pretty sweet. So you're gonna grip it down the end of the shaft here and swing it up to the top. Now, most of you are gonna shoot the energy way back there. Not very good. I'd like to see that noodle shoot up there, just like we did with that alignment stick. So here we go. I'm gonna swing, and you see that noodle shooting out front. So how do I do that? The right arm isn't really firing or lengthening until somewhere more out here. If I lengthen it out, cast it out here, now my sequence gets out of whack. Now this shoots too early. I want to shoot it out there. So really kind of cool little device here, and obviously pretty easy to make. Okay, so there were a few movements, but I know you guys are wanting probably a drill where you could actually hit some balls. So this is probably one of my favorite drills just in general, but especially for this sensation. And anytime I do a drill, I generally like to have people do it off a tee just to not worry so much about contact and direction at first, more the movement itself. So here I have my 8-iron. I'm gonna do a little split grip, okay? Now, there's many ways to do a split grip. You've probably seen the versions that Milo and I have sort of put out there before, and that's kind of, you know, how we like to do it. So I'll talk you through it a little bit. Little split grip, basically just drop my right hand. I'll probably have the pointer finger down on the shaft there. Now, as you see here, I'm gonna sort of preload this where that shaft is now parallel with the ground, and I'm done with the left arm here. I have the hinge all set up. The right hand and arm is pretty much done too. You notice my right arm has some amount of sort of a little external rotation feeling in that trail shoulder and a little supination in that right forearm. Do you need a ton of external rotation to achieve what we're after? No. In fact, there's some players, some great players, who have the right arm come with more on the side or slightly behind. And I'll show those here in a sec, just so you can see that you don't have to have the right arm way in front. We just don't want it shooting out kind of that way and moving way too much internally. I want it to kind of come with, feel maybe slightly on the underside, if anything. So this split grip really gets you kind of preset there where you have that structure, that feeling, and then you can wind up and then feel like you maintain that into impact. So you see how that right arm is feeling kind of under and more like this versus shooting it. So if you get the crisscross early, that's where you've gone wrong. We want to feel that club and shaft kind of moving more like that. So if I go ahead and set up, little hinge, and this is a pretty difficult drill to, again, hit it solidly. So I'm just more after the movement. That was pretty good. And you'll see how that right arm works. So from there, you have the feelings, you have the movements where you can sort of start to build it up. I've given you a few movements and drills to kind of piece together. And now it just becomes, okay, how can I then apply that in some slow shots where I begin to feel that right arm coming with. You see how that I feel that right arm going more this way, not shooting out and working internally on me. It's feeling much more like a sidearm throw. So there's some nice little slow ones to just get that feeling down. I love that feeling of that right hand and arm moving, coming with me. It really matches up nicely with being able to unwind your chest as well and get that nice straight ball flight and low point forward. So there you have it. I know for many of you that right arm, that trail arm, really wants to take over in your golf swing. I know it's frustrating. I've felt it plenty of times before, trust me. And under the gun, it really wants to shoot. But if you can work on some of these movements and drills, I think you'll start to feel like things are a little more together, a little more systematic, and hopefully you'll bring about some more consistent ball striking, because I know that's what you're kind of after. So keep getting that feeling in that right arm, and then you can start to really kind of go at it actually a little more aggressively over time and not feel like you're going to lose it. So I encourage you to go through that again step by step. And if you want to take it even a step more, check out our series that Milo and I did on the 5 keys to rotation. This was one of our keys in that series, and I think it does a really nice job of marrying what this trail arm is doing with the rest of your body. Check that out, the 5 keys to rotation. I'll leave the link below. And thanks again for watching, really appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you next time.